So, I know I'm preaching to the choir or preaching to the converted or whatever, but man, isn't there a lot to learn in the Word? I mean, I was doing a bunch of different little studies this week, and all these different... I used to listen to a pastor named Pastor Arnold Murray. He's no longer alive, and he used to say the Word is pregnant with meaning it continues to grow and grow and grow. I mean, who here has read the Bible all the way through? Hopefully everybody. Every time you read something new, though, if you actually read it and try, pray first, read it, and think about it, the Father reveals new things to us, right? And it's just, it really shouldn't amaze me. I should expect it. I should be like, okay, what are you going to show me new today, Father? But it always does, amaze me, and it's just neat, the things we learn. And that was the case for today. We're going to start out today with two readings. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Debarim. Deuteronomy chapter 1. Brother Justin Ukoma, can you read verses 1 through 18, please?
These are the words which Moshe spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan in the wilderness, in the desert plain opposite Suf, between Paran and Tophel and Laban and Etzeroth and Dizbah. 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. And it came to be in the 40th year, in the 11th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, according to all that Yahweh had commanded him concerning them. After he had stricken Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth and Edrei. Beyond the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moshe undertook to declare this Torah, saying, Yahweh our Elohim spoke to us in Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and set out on your way, and go into the mountains of the Amorites, and to all the neighboring places in the desert plain, in the mountains, and in the low country, and in the Negev, and on the seacoast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them and their seed after them. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am unable to bear you by myself. Yahweh your Elohim has increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars in the heavens. Yahweh Elohim of your fathers is going to add to you 1,000 times more than you are, and bless you as he has spoken to you. How do I bear your pressure and your burden and your strife by myself? Choose men wise and understanding and known to your tribes, and let me appoint them as your heads. And you answered me and said, The word which you have spoken to us to do is good. And I took the heads of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands, and leaders of hundreds, and leaders of 50s, and leaders of 10s, and officers for your tribes. And I commanded your judges at that time, saying, When hearing between your brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with him. Do not show partiality in right ruling. Hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right rulings belong to Elohim. In the case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. And I commanded you at this time all the words which you should do.
Amen. Thank you. And so, there's just so much right there, right? And we're not going there. I kind of feel like I want to go in some different places. But Brother Justin has bringing us some teachings about maybe how things are worded in the Word isn't how we actually understand it today. And we read right here in, let me see, verse, it's a 10 or 11, somewhere in 10. Yahweh your Elohim has increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars of the heavens. Now, we're reading that in our Torah portion, right? Just recently, I'm going to bless you and going to increase the people as many as the stars in the sky and the sand and the sea. And well, that has happened here, according to Moshe, according to the word of Yah, right here. And then there's so many people that Moshe can't control this big unwieldy thing that is called Israel, and so he appoints captains of tens, 50s, hundreds, and thousands. Where did he get that idea? The other guy. Let's go to Exodus 18. That's right.
Well,
we're going to find out. Exodus 18, verse 13. Where am I? There we go. Brother Jason, can you read 13 to the end of the chapter?
And it came to be on the next day that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people, and the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. And when the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" And Moshe said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah." And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, "What you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim. And you shall enlighten them concerning the laws of the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk, and the work which they do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times, and it shall be that they bring every great matter to you, but they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all this people also go to their place in peace." And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent his father-in-law, and he went away to his own land.
So, thank you. His father-in-law is Jethro, or Yithro, as it says here in the scriptures. And so he gives him this advice, and this fly is bugging me. Get thee behind me, Satan, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And so Moses is going a little bit crazy. He's got too much to do. He's got too many things to focus on. And his father-in-law gives him sage advice. And he listens to it. He listens to the advice of his father-in-law, and things start happening. And so today, those were just like our preambles, if you were. Today, what we're going to look at is subordinate leaders. And that's the title of today's sermon, if we need to have one. Subordinate leaders. Now, one of the things that we can see from just these two little pieces of Scripture, and we could delve into these pieces of Scripture, but we're in Acts, right? So we're going to Acts today. We'll be in Acts 20 eventually. But one of the things we can see is that it's a hierarchical leadership. And leadership is typically hierarchical, meaning there's somebody above and people below that, and there's layers and layers and layers. So we have Moshe, and then we have rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds. Is there rulers of 500s? No, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s, right? We see that throughout history. It's a very militaristic thing, to my mind, because I was, brought up in a military system, so I can automatically see that. But it's also a corporate thing. You've got a CEO, and then you've got under him help me out with the business stuff. You got like a COO and
the C-suite.
The C-suite, and then you have vice presidents of these things, and managers, and all the way down. It's all hierarchical, and there's always leaders above, and there's always subordinates below in the system. And so the military has, and when I say the military, I don't just mean the U.S. military, I mean any decent military out there in the world, studies leadership, and they study principles of leadership, and they've broken them down, and then industry many times taps into the military and says, hey, let's learn some of these principles of leadership and apply them to industry. There was a terrible time in the 80s in the Army when the Army decided they wanted to look at like IBM and Disney and stuff like that and look at principles of management for the Army, and then they were trying to manage, and it used to drive me crazy because I was like, you cannot manage men to attack a machine gun bunker. You have to lead them. It's leadership, not management. And I'm getting off on a thing. But hey, I was in the Army. I talked about this recently with some brothers and sisters, and so I'm bringing to the table what I bring to the table. But one of the things about being a leader in the military, and I was blessed to command at every level, at every rank that I held, I got to command. So I got to lead, as opposed to just being a staff guy. But the military, the U.S. Army, they teach you, you study leadership, and then you go apply it. Then they bring you back to some other school, and you study more leadership, and you go apply that. And that applies for NCOs and officers all the way through the Army. So they're constantly bringing you back to school, teaching you new things, reviewing old principles, and then sending you forward. So it's study and application, study and application. And so today we are going to look at some principles of leadership, not from me, from the Word. It interests me. It's like, okay, why? And I used to, I don't really anymore, ask myself this question: why did Yahweh choose me to stand here right now? It's like, why me, Father? Because, I know my faults, and my wife even knows more of them. I'm obviously not a perfect guy, and it's like, why am I chosen right now to be standing here, to be, heading this ship of Shofar Mountain and that kind of thing? And the reason is because I have things to contribute, right? He has given me skill sets and experiences and things that I can contribute. And while I was preparing this sermon, I was thinking back to when I was a young lieutenant. That's like a very low rank in the Army. And we had a boss who was like my boss's boss, right? And he said that no one in this room is unexpendable. Because somebody talked about how they couldn't do something because somebody wasn't there or something. And we kind of looked at him, he goes, we are all expendable. Now does anyone here want to think that you're expendable? You're expendable. We can do this without you. But the reality is, not just in the military. These principles apply to everything. No one is unexpendable. If you have somebody whose job is so important that if they don't do it, everything falls apart, then you're failing as an organization. Because that person could be sick, or they could have to go to their mom's funeral, or somebody else could hire them away. In industry and in the military, people get killed, right, or injured. And so one has to have an organization where no one is unexpendable. The mission has to continue regardless. Now see, that's military, but think about this. Think about what we're doing here at Shofar Mountain, right? Yah's will be done. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm here, you're here, we could all quit and go be Hindus or something. Yah's will is still going to be accomplished. But he does accomplish his will by, through, and with people, right? And so you're either going to be part of the solution, you're going to be on the side of Yah and win, or you're not. And so everything moves in that direction. Now, I'm not in the military anymore, even though I bring these things back. And so I start thinking about things, and it's like, he didn't just call me here. He called every one of you here. Mm-hmm. Right now, today, in this room, you're here because Yah called you, the Holy Spirit urged you, you had an unction, whatever, you're here. Some of you, I know your story is better than other of you, why you're here. And so then I got to thinking, based on what we're going to be reading in Acts today, what would happen to Shofar Mountain, and I'm bringing it back down to here, if Yah called me away? What if he called me home? It's dangerous out here. I could go out there and die. Praise the Father. I know where I'm going. Don't cry. But what if he did? What would happen to Shofar Mountain? I asked myself that question. What would happen if he called me to, I've been watching videos of Thailand. Isan, it's part of Thailand. It's like, what if he called me to Thailand? What if I woke up and it's just like, Joe, dude, I need you in Thailand. What would happen? What would happen if you called me to Maine? I'm always talking about going to Maine, right? 'Cause I don't want to go there. You guys are here for a reason. You're not here because I'm here, right? This is not the cult of Joe, the cult of personality. It shouldn't be. People have come here to Shofar Mountain, and people have left Shofar Mountain. But I think everybody who's come and left with skills that they didn't have when they came, skills that then can go towards furthering the Father's kingdom wherever they go. They come and they get new ideas. And you can learn from everybody in every situation if you have a teachable mind, right? You can learn, like, that's a really good idea. I should do that. You can also learn, that was the worst idea I've ever seen attempted in my life. I will never do that. But if you have a teachable mind, you can take that. And so people have come here and left with skills, knowledge, and ideas like that. Now, Moses was a great leader, right? I mean, does anyone disagree that he was a great leader? He had his faults, and I've talked about some of them and taken a task for it, but he did have his faults. But he was a great leader, and we began today with Moshe choosing subordinate leaders, right? And he had to do that to help himself. Now, subordinate leaders, first of all, have to be assessed, right? You have to decide who you're going to pick to be a leader, and you have to do that. You have to assess them. So let's turn quickly to Luke 16. Luke chapter 16. Whoever gets there first, read verse 10 in Luke 16.
He who is trustworthy in what is least is trustworthy also in much. And he who is unrighteous in what is least is unrighteous also in much.
When one is choosing subordinate leaders, one has to assess them. This is a way. If you can trust them with a little, you can trust them with a lot. If they're good with a little, they can be good with a lot. And so things have to be given to people. People have to try things. But you as a leader have to provide those opportunities to people. And we're going somewhere with this. Put your mind into the fact that right now I don't feel like a leader maybe, but I'm going to show you guys that you all are, right? So the first thing is they're assessed. After they're assessed, out of those that are assessed, then the subordinate leaders are selected, right? Moshe selected. It didn't say Yah selected. Yah said, go pick them. And he did that through Jethro. And he said, hey, go pick from you good people. And then he gave qualifications for those people, which if we wanted to go there, we could go there today. But I don't want to make this a 2-hour sermon. But they have to be assessed. Okay, I see what kind of person you are. You can be trusted with a little, trusted with a lot. I like the way you carry yourself. I like the way you do that. I like the way you can do that. Whatever. There's an assessment made, right? And then they're selected. And then once they're selected, it doesn't end there. They have to be trained, right? Moshe has to give guidance to people. He has to talk to them. He has to make on-the-spot corrections sometimes. It's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Now, we don't get a lot of that in the Word, but it's going on, right? It's not just, right, you're in charge, run away. After these people are trained, and training sometimes can be as simple as saying, all right, here's what I need you to do. You are now in charge of this, right? And so now they know, okay, I'm in charge of this. The next thing that they have to do is they have to be empowered. You have to say, okay, go do it. Moshe couldn't say, okay, you're in charge of 1,000 people right there, and then keep poking his nose all down into that 1,000 people all the time. And that's micromanaging, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does micromanaging work? Mm-hmm. Do you guys know how to deal with a micromanager?
Tell him to stand his lane.
Yeah, sometimes that doesn't work, though, if he's your boss. Give him too much to micromanage. Just inundate them with things. It's like, when they like to micromanage, hey, sir, do you think I should use this Bic pen or this little Pilot pen? Because I'm getting ready to order some, and I'm going to buy like 3 desks full of them. Do you think I should get, and just start inundating them with that stuff, and then they'll leave you alone in the big stuff. That's an aside, too. But you have to empower your subordinate leaders, and then you have to supervise them. Right? Once they're empowered, once you put them in position, giving them the power to run, then you'd still have to supervise them. You can't just fire and forget, right? A good leader doesn't do that, as we're going to see today. And then, once you've done that, it's kind of like, what is that, wash, rinse, repeat? Because this leader of the 10, do you think this leader of the 10 is going to be a leader of 10 forever? Some may. Some may get fired from being a leader of 10. You go back and be one of the ones that's got a leader of 10 over you. Some of them are going to be like, you know what, you're awesome, you're a leader of 50. Wow, you're doing really good as a leader of 50, we're going to make you a leader of 100. Right? And every step of the way, they have to be trained, they have to be empowered, they have to be given guidance on this is what you're now responsible for while you're doing that. So, I kind of cut to the chase a little bit early, but who's a subordinate leader? Who's a subordinate leader here? That's right. All y'all. Really, everybody to one degree or another in this room is a subordinate leader. To one degree or another. Some examples. Brother Jason. Teshuvah Hill, right? He's the leader of Teshuvah Hill. Now he's the leader of his family, too. You're the leader of your family. You don't have a family yet. You're the leader of one. A leader of one. You're the leader in your business. Right? And what you're doing. You've got a system under you. Sister Carrie, you're the leader of your household right now. So we all have leadership that Travis is the leader of something else, but I just don't want to say it on YouTube right now. So we all have jobs to do. We're looking at subordinate leaders today. Let's go to Acts 20. Let's get there today. Here we go. Okay, so you will remember Paul assembled from Ephesus his subordinate leaders, right? He called these basically what amounts to today pastors, and he said, y'all come to me, we're going to have this little chit-chat. And so they all come from Ephesus, all these, we went over that last week. They're like church leaders. Let's pick up around just a little bit of review because we're looking at a different angle. Verse 25 in Acts 20, Paul speaking, Shaul speaking, and now see, I know that you all, among whom I went about proclaiming the reign of Elohim, shall see my face no more. So he's called them together to say goodbye. I'm not going to see you guys anymore. And so he's giving his final instructions. And then the leadership principle there that Paul is displaying, because Paul's a good leader. Paul is displaying teaching. It's a principle of leadership. You have to teach subordinates. And so he's instructing them, he's teaching them, and he's saying, hey, y'all aren't going to see me anymore, so listen up. Here's some things you have to understand. Right? So he's called a little meeting. It's really a class. Verse 26. Therefore I witness to you this day that I am clear from the blood of all. We talked about that last week. For I kept not back from declaring to you all the counsel of Elohim. And so what he's saying is, you know what? I gave everything. I didn't hold anything back in teaching you guys the truth, in teaching you guys the way, in teaching you guys the life, Yeshua. I preached you this. I didn't just preach it. I didn't just say, hey, do y'all know that Yeshua is the Son of God? And he died for our sins and we can go forward. No, he's teaching them, right? And that brings a lot to the table. And of all the people he taught, some of those people rose up to be subordinate leaders, to be overseers, as we're going to read here, of the church. They became pastors of little congregations themselves, right? So he had to assess them, and then he selected them, and so on. But he's teaching them that. Now, verse 28. Therefore, take heed to yourselves and to all the flock among which the set-apart Spirit, the Holy Spirit, has made you overseers, leaders, to shepherd the assembly of Elohim, which he has purchased with his own blood. And so there's a lot there in that one little verse. He's saying, take heed, pay attention, be careful. Take heed. It's like, what? He's trying to get their attention, and the principle here is really caring for your subordinates, right? He's telling them, you guys need to take heed of your flock. You have to be careful for your flock. It's not about you. It's really not even really about the flock. It's about him, right? But it's his flock. You're just an overseer of that flock, and you got a job to do because of that. It's Yeshua's flock, right? But you're an overseer of this chunk of it, and so take heed. Take care of your subordinates, and that's a principle. There's a lot of bad leaders out there. There's a lot of good leaders who sometimes act badly or don't apply the principles correctly, right? But good leaders take care of their subordinates. There was a funny little saying that they would say in the army when they were teaching leadership at the junior level, and they're like, what's more important, the mission or the men? And so then they would have this big discussion, right? Okay, all right, let's discuss that. So your mission is to attack that bridge with your unit, right? Okay, so if the mission is more important, you just throw all your guys at it and all your guys get killed and you don't care if they ate any food, but hey, we took the bridge. Now my guys are dead. Give me new guys because I'm a great leader because I accomplished the mission. On the other hand, if you look at the other thing, it's like, well, hey, if we go down there and attack that bridge, guys are going to get shot and blown up. You know what? We're just going to hang out here and let the bombers take the bridge. All right, everybody stay here. You don't accomplish your mission, but you took care of your guys. So what's more important? The mission of the men? The answer is yes. Right? You got to do both. And it's hard. And it's hard to figure out what's more important here. But you do have to have concern for your subordinates, and you have to think about them. Now, he says you all are overseers. You are all leaders in your own right of your own things. He's letting them know that. Sometimes people don't realize that. They don't realize that they're actually in charge of something. It's like, hey, I've had to tell men this. You are the head of your household. Don't tell me that your wife doesn't want to do this. You're the head of your household. Don't tell me you can't do anything with your 13-year-old kid. You're the head of your household. Be the head of your household. When in charge, take charge. And that's what he's telling them there. That's a principle of leadership. When you're in charge, take charge. Don't be afraid to take charge. Then he says, feed them. Feed your flock. We talked about that extensively last week. To put it on the simplest level, principles of leadership, because it also does mean care for them, but we've already kind of covered that one. Hey, it means instruct them, right? On the simplest level, instruct your flock. You're not just a leader so that they can make you dinner. All right, cool. They made you dinner and they cleaned up your little synagogue for you. Awesome. No, feed your flock. So go feed the people that Yah has made you the overseer of, and in Paul's case, that Yah has made you the overseer of through me, right? Because Paul selected them. And so principle is instruction. And then it says, your flock that was purchased with the blood of Yeshua. See, that's calling them to remembrance of who they are actually in charge of and the price that was paid for those people. And the principle here is to value what you are responsible for, to be a good steward. That's a biblical principle. It's not just a leadership principle. Be a good steward of what you have. And in this case, if you need some help to be a good steward, remember how these people were purchased. They were purchased with the blood of Messiah. Right? He died for you. He died for them, and so you better take care of them because he's not going to be happy if you don't. So value, take care of what you're a leader of. Verse 29. For I know this, that after my departure savage wolves shall come among you, not sparing the flock. Also from among yourselves men shall arise, speaking distorted teachings to draw away the taught ones, the disciples, after themselves. What's he telling them there? He's telling them to beware, right? He's telling them to beware of wolves. He's telling them to beware of people within their own flock that start slipping away and leading other people away. Kind of a mutiny thing. What he's doing, though, and as a principle of leadership, is he is providing what we call in the military intelligence. It's like information of a higher level to his people. It's like, hey, here's what you all can expect. Because as you're a higher position of leadership, you see a different picture. You see a bigger picture than somebody who's in a lower picture. But you can't just tell people, go do this thing, take care of your flock because I said so. In this case, he's saying, take care of your flock because. Here's two things that could happen. There's these wolves out there that are going to come in and get them, right? No, he's speaking metaphorically. And not only from the outside coming in, there's people on the inside. And so he's cluing them in, he's guiding them, he's leading the leaders and telling them, here's some things you got to be careful for. You know, Brother Justin is going to be in charge of Shofar Mountain while we're gone, and so I showed him how to turn off the water so that it doesn't freeze and bust our pipes while we're gone. It's like, hey, here's something you need to be careful for, right? You know, this water freezing temperatures could come from the outside to disturb even though it be possible our pipes. I mean, you know, so watch out for that. Provide them intel. Where are we? Verse 30-ish. Okay, 31. Therefore watch, remembering that for 3 years, night and day, I did not cease to warn each one of you with tears. He's telling them to watch. The principle of leadership there is to observe, right? Because as a leader, you have to be observant. You're not just in charge, and this is a leader at any level, right? Everybody's a subordinate leader, except for Yah. So everyone is a subordinate leader to some extent. So leadership, you have to watch, you have to... And that's in the observe category. You have to evaluate what you're seeing with a critical eye. And then on the other side of watch, which we kind of covered a lot last week, you have to guard, you have to protect, because those are parts of watch also, right? And so he's telling them, hey, leaders, check it out. I'm leaving. Y'all need to watch. So you need to be observant. You need to evaluate what you're seeing. You need to guard this flock. You need to protect this flock from me. And that's what subordinates have to do. And then he warns them, and again, that principle just goes right back to informing, right? It's like, hey, y'all need to watch out for this. And so that's what that is. Verse 31, therefore watch, remembering that for 3 years, and now, brothers, I commit to you Elohim and to the word of his favor, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among all having been set apart. So he's kind of told them some dire things up to this point. He said, watch out, I'm leaving, I'm not coming back, take care of your flock, it's a heavy responsibility, it was bought with Christ's blood, y'all are responsible, you take care of it, I'm out of here, y'all need to watch because all these bad things are happening. But he's finishing his sandwich with encouragement. And he's telling them, hey, it's going to be okay. Yah's got you, we've been studying this, he's got us in his hands. Where are we at here, verse 32? Now, brothers, I commit you to Elohim and to the word of his favor, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance. He is encouraging his people. Leaders can't just be cheerleaders. You have to have substance to back it up, but you have to be at sometimes a cheerleader, right? If your whole organization is feeling glum, down, and blue, come on, it's stuff of movies. Right? Here's William Wallace, right? Mel Gibson, freedom! And he's because the guys are like, man, we got to go fight those guys. I don't want to do it. So he gives them the rousing speech, right? And so you have to encourage those in whose care, those who have, I'm trying to use proper English, the people you're supposed to care for, you have to encourage them and build them up, esprit de corps. All right, verse 33. Now this is kind of new. We didn't cover this last week. I have coveted no one's silver or gold or garments. And when it says garments, it's not like, who was that? Brother Jason. I was talking to him and Sister Abby last night about their coats. And I'm like, man, if I wasn't an Israelite, I'd covet your coat because I really like it, right? It's not talking about that. It's not really regular clothes. This is talking about the garments of distinction. It's like, oh, you're somebody. You're wearing the purple robes or whatever. It's like, I never asked for that stuff. I didn't want that. Those garments. And you yourselves know that these hands supplied my needs and for those who were with me. Now we all know what was Paul's business? Tent making. He was a tent maker. Why did he work as a tent maker? To provide not only his needs, but for other people's needs also, right? He worked. We read elsewhere, and I could have gone there, but I just didn't feel like making this sermon end up talking too much about money. But he said, hey, I could have demanded that you guys support me. It's right for you to support me. In another place, he says, you know what? Y'all supported me, Philippians. I'm really glad you did. Thank you. I didn't need it. It was really for you to gain by actually offering this than it was for me to receive it because y'all takes care of my needs. And so he goes there. We talked, I think last week or the week before, those who labor are worthy of double honor. So see, he knows all that, but Paul's like, hey, I can work on my own, and not only to support myself, to feed myself, but also I help out other people with it, with these hands right here, and that's how he works. To help the weak, and remember the words of Master Yeshua that he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. All right, swordsmen and women, where did Yeshua say that? Where can we read Yeshua saying it is more blessed to give than to receive? You can't read it. It's not in the Bible. You cannot read anywhere in the Bible where Yeshua said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Well, wait a minute. Paul's just saying, Master Yeshua said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. That's because the Bible contradicts itself. Turn, if you will, to the last chapter of John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right before Acts. Look at the last verse in the last chapter of John. John 21:25. Now there is much else that Yeshua did. If every one of them were written down, I think that the world itself could not contain the written books. Amen. Yeshua said and did a lot of things that we do not read about in this word. Everything that we need to know that Yeshua said and did, we read about in this book. It is sufficient for us to go forward. But everything he said and did is not recorded in here. I mean, there's whole, and if you think about it, you know that. There's whole gaps in his life that we don't read about. It's like, where was he then? What was he doing then? The thing is, it's not really that important. What is important is what we know. But when he says it is better to give than to receive, did Yeshua say that? Yes.
Sure.
He said it. Paul said he said it. He said it.
Right.
All right. So there's no need to doubt that. Did y'all know that I watch a few movies? It's a line that goes in a lot of movies, and it's kind of a comical line, and it's usually like some kind of, who's the guy that lives in the woods and shoots bows at the Kingsmen? Robin Hood. And it's like the Friar Tuck guy, and you'll see it a lot of times. He'll go like, it's more blessed to give than to receive. Because he's giving somebody a punch or something like that. Okay, so, yeah, Yeshua did say it. We just can't read where he said it. Verse 36, and having said this, all right, so he's done talking. He knelt down and he prayed with them all. And there was much weeping among them all, and falling on Shaul's neck, they kissed him, distressed most of all. Why are they distressed? Because of the word which he had said that they would not see his face anymore, and they went with him to the ship. So what kind of leader was Paul, according to his people?
Pretty good.
They loved him, right? That he told them some pretty scary things. Hey, bad dudes are coming. They're going to invade your flock. You're going to have to protect them. Oh, by the way, that little flock that you're in charge of, some of those people are going to slip away from what you're doing. You're going to fail as a leader with those people. And not only that, they're going to pull other people away with them. I mean, these are scary things for leaders. But the thing that upset them the most out of everything that he said was, I'm not going to see you guys anymore. Right? They loved Paul. Paul was a good leader. The whole principle about him not coveting money, about him working, I don't need the nice garments, I don't need this or the other thing. There's a principle of leadership there, and it's selflessness. You cannot be in it for the money. I have a person I know, I don't want to go deeper than that because it's going out on YouTube, who got 3 Masters of Divinity because people were paying him to go do that. And I said to him, well, why are you doing this? He goes, man, they pay you to do this. It's a great job. And it was like, wow. You know, you're looking at the ministry like as a job for pay, to get paid doing it. Which is not to say that paying pastors is wrong. I don't think it is. But that can't be why a pastor wants to do that. And that's what Paul's saying. I don't care. I mean, he thanked the Philippians too for giving them money one time. He's like, hey, thanks a lot, guys. But you can't do it for that. And there are leaders, and just take the money out of it. There are leaders who want to be leaders because they want, and I know you've seen this in the military, they want that rank. I want to be a sergeant major. I want to be a general. I want to be this, that, or the other thing. And they'll step all over everybody below them to get it. They do it in the civilian world too. They'll just trash their subordinates to get ahead. Why are they in the leadership? They're not in the leadership to do a good job. They're not in the leadership to bring the company up and to make the people's lives that they're responsible for better lives, right? They're in it for them. And that is not selfless. That is selfish, and that is not good. So we're not supposed to have as leaders personal interest. I mean, you look at, well, it used to be. In this room it is. Mothers. A good mother is selfless. It's like, I think I would just like to go take a bath now and listen to some music, but I've got to wash dishes and my kid just broke something in the living room and Sally's crying and Bobby has a dirty diaper. A lot of women put their lives on hold, if you will. It's like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm raising these children, Then there are a lot of women who don't do that, right, in our society. And they're not very selfless. And it's like, man, why did you have kids? I mean, I'm glad you did, considering the alternative. But it's like there are selfish people out there. And it's the same thing with fathers. There's selfish fathers. They just want to go do what they want to do. They want to play golf. And, it is not fun as a father to come home and change diapers and help your wife and do things like that, or to go work to make money so that, we can provide for the family when I'd rather go sit and play my, whatever they play now, Xbox or, whatever. I mean, I don't know. But good leaders are selfless, and we have to be concerned with those who have been placed in our care more so than we are with ourselves. And so those are things to think about. So, Summing up, principles of leadership that we've kind of covered. First one is, when you're in charge, take charge. When you're a leader, be a leader. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. We used to have a thing we said when I was in Special Forces, and Kate bugs me about it because I have a really short temper. Patience, which I need to cultivate. It's a fruit of the Spirit. Long-suffering. But it's like, when in charge, take charge. When no one else appears to be in charge, take charge. Right? It's like, okay, dun, 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 dun. All right, here's what we're going to do. You know, and, you know, I need to cultivate that a little bit more. But when you're in charge, take charge. Take care of your people. Love. What's the greatest commandment? Love, right? Love. Love is the greatest commandment. Love the Father with everything you got. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? Love, 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 love. That's a leadership principle. Love your people. Take care of them. Another principle is teach. Teach, instruct, inform your people. Give them information that they can use. Don't just hold it all in. It's a thing you see in bad leaders. Bad leaders hold secrets. I got invited to be a speaker. I guess we can put this out there. It doesn't matter. I got invited to be a speaker sometime in the future, and it's at a place, and a person is hosting it, a pastor is hosting it, and I called a friend of mine who lives in that area. And he goes, wow, that's my pastor who's hosting it. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, wow, there's this big thing happening, and you don't know about it? I mean, can you guys imagine something happening at Shofar Mountain and you didn't know about it? It's like, hey, you know, in February we're having a Bob camp out. We are? Well, you didn't tell us, but you got to inform your people. Another principle is encourage. Encourage the people. You have to, and you know, sometimes encouraging the people means you got to put on the hard face. You got to hold stuff in. You have to bear the burden. We all have our cross to bear. Sometimes you got to bear that cross and keep your mouth shut about it, and put on your smiley face, or your game face, or your war face, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. Do you think leaders, military now, because that's what I come from, you're getting ready to attack that bridge that I talked about earlier, and the leader's like, all right, man, are you ready? Let's go. Do you think he's scared? You think he thinks, I might get shot? My leg might get blown off? He is. He's just as scared as everybody else. But what kind of leader is he going to be if he's like, I don't know, man, there's a lot of machine guns shooting at us. Do your best. I mean, you know, that's not leadership, right? We got to bear our cross. You have to, did a video on this, man up, right? Woman up. So encourage your people. Another principle that we covered is be responsible. You're responsible. When you're the leader, you're responsible for everything your people do and fail to do. Well, I can't help it. Sister Kate, you know, she just hasn't been cooking dinner up here for the last 5 days, and yeah, it's just terrible. It's her fault. Hey, Pastor, you need to talk to your wife, man. What's going on with dinner, right? I know, I just made that up. I was just looking at you thinking about it. But the thing is, you can't blame other people. You have to take responsibility yourself for what's going on. You can't say, my congregation's terrible. They don't read their Bibles. Well, why aren't they? You know, what kind of leader are you? You can't inspire, you know, or pray for, or lead, or, you know, whatever. So be responsible. And then the final one that we're covering today, it's not the final leadership principle, is selflessness. You have to be selfless. You have to think of other people before you think of yourself. So those are some of the leadership principles we covered today. I was thinking I could probably, I'm not that kind of pastor though, turn this into a teaching series. This is a 5-part series at Shofar Mountain with Pastor Joe Fox on leadership. Lesson 1 is on, but you know how you tie it all back, right? Who was the greatest leader? Yeshua, Jesus, right? By far. I mean, every one of those principles we went to, we could take that would be the final sermon, right? Out of the 5-part series, we would go back and extract all the different examples of Yeshua doing all those things right there, and then we'd sum it up and clap and give everybody their handouts and, you know, sell the DVD series for money. All right, that's it for today. Let's pray.